There is an old story about 5 blind people encountering an elephant. Has anyone heard this? The parable of the elephant. Each one only touches a certain part of the elephant, and they each come away with a different perspective. So one encounters the trunk and says an elephant is some sort of hose. One encounters a leg and says an elephant is a tree trunk. One touches the side and says an elephant is a wall. Another says, grabs the tail and says an elephant is some kind of a rope. Now, the point of this anecdote is usually given to say that we all have a portion of the truth and that we're each correct from our own perspective. But I'm going to flip this on its head. I'm going to take it a different direction. I'm going to say that they're all sharing a common perspective. Because what if I told you that an elephant is about 40 pounds, is damp and moist and squishy, and pulses about 25 times a minute? That's true too, from a different perspective. Oh, sorry, what if I told you? So that's true too, but of course I'm talking about a different aspect of the elephant that the blind people could not encounter. If I asked you to describe an egg, you might say that it's white, brown, or bluish, that it's round, it's oval, it's smooth, and then if it would break if I banged it on the table. If we did that, you might say that now an egg is some sort of a mess on a table. And that would be correct too. What color is an apple? We can do back and forth on this one. What color is your favorite kind of apple?
Yellow.
Yellow?
Red, yellow.
Red?
Red.
Some people like green apples. An apple is almost entirely white. It's got little brown seeds, but the part of an apple that is red or green is only the outer skin of the outer surface. But that little bit informs and influences our entire experience of the apple. The descriptions that come to mind when we talk about an object are those features that we're most likely to interact with, and that's natural. But take this understanding to your citizens' experience of their government. We're here today to talk about high-performing government. Right? I mean, your organizations are accomplishing great things. You're maintaining critical infrastructure that threatens to fall apart every day. You're uncovering inefficiencies and streamlining processes. You're directing the built environment, influencing they're impacting generations to come. You're forging meaningful and rewarding culture. You're making strained budgets cover more services. And you're accomplishing political gymnastics to get any of this done. From a different perspective, none of that matters. The efforts I just described that we're all engaged in are the shape of the elephant's bones, or the temperature of the yolk inside the egg, or the texture of the seeds inside the apple. To the citizen, the only thing that matters is their experience, the experience that they have with their government. When you buy an apple at a grocery store, you look at the shape and the color, the condition of the skin. Those are your points of engagement with the apple. And from those, you make a judgment as to which apple you purchase and eat. If you're hungry for an apple, I think I have one in my bag. But when you're trampled by an elephant, you're only interacting with a very small portion of the elephant. The foot, specifically the bottom of the foot, is suddenly all you care about when it comes to the elephant. Your whole perception and understanding of elephant will be impacted, that's a joke, by that experience. So with this in mind, I think it's important to take a few minutes to explore what I'm calling the point of engagement. Now, I want to address this by asking 3 questions. Number 1, what is the point of engagement? There's supposed to be a number 3 on here. If you look, it's very faint. So number 1, what is the point of engagement? Number 2, what is the point of engagement? And number 3, say it with me. What is the point of engagement, right? It's super deep, right? But stick with me. This is the last presentation of the day, and we're going to get up here, folks. So, the first question, what is the point of engagement? What's the reason? What's the purpose? Why are we even here? It's time for some navel gazing. This is pretty deep and existential stuff, right? One of my heroes in civic engagement, Jen Paca, the founder of Code for America, says, the government is when we do together what we can't each do alone. And that's super deep. It's very inspiring. But then you get home, and the citizens. So a couple of stories. I work for the city of Colorado Springs, and a couple years ago when Nick and I were working together, we had what was then the most destructive fire in the history of the state of Colorado. So the Waldo Canyon fire started just west of town. And I had some experience with social media, and so I was called in by the communications department to help in the Joint Information Center, the JIC. And just because I knew how Twitter worked and I was very comfortable with it, I was put in charge of Twitter accounts for the mayor, the city, the sheriff, the fire department, the police department. I took them all over. And so we had consistent communication. And the first thing I did was, let's establish this hashtag, because people are calling it Pyramid Mountain Fire, Pyramid Fire, Waldo Canyon Fire, Waldo Fire, all over the place. So I looked to the most authoritative resource I had, which was the Colorado Division of Emergency Management, the state level. And they said, all right, folks, we're going to call it Waldo Fire. And I said, let's do that. So I sent it out to everybody locally, and I said, here's what we're doing. And I learned very quickly that in the world of social media and citizen engagement, you do not declare anything. The community decides it. So I said, let's all change our hashtag, everybody. Here's what we're going to call it. And I was promptly corrected because that tweet was hours old. And hours are an infinity when you have an unfolding situation. So the community had already decided that we were going to call it Waldo Canyon Fire. If you think this doesn't matter, ask a Twitter user. The misspelling of a hashtag can send you off in different directions and is very crucial. So I spent the next probably 6 to 10 hours straight up apologizing to everybody on behalf of the mayor, the city, the county, the sheriff, the fire department, the police department. So the first thing that I learned is that in engaging with the community, you don't come at it from a point of authority. You come at it from a point of participant, a unique participant in this process. The second thing that I learned during Waldo Canyon Fire was on the power of momentum once the community gets going. So citizens wanted to help the firefighters. They were bringing, they were lining the roads when the firefighters were going out. They're saying, "We love our firefighters. We love our firemen." But then the firefighters go out and they're fighting the fire, and the citizens are left behind thinking, "What can we do? How can we help?" Well, fires are hot. It was the middle of summer. Somehow the community on social media decided that the firefighters were going to be thirsty when they got back. Let alone that there's a whole infrastructure and logistics situation to support them. The community decided that the firefighters needed ice. And so they started bringing ice and just leaving it at the doors and the gates of the fire departments, the stations. So much so that the fighting apparatus couldn't get out, or they were driving over bags of ice. And the ice was melting. It was hot. It was the middle of summer, and half the town was threatening to go on fire. So, despite protestations from the community or from the official accounts, we said, just give money to the Red Cross. Just go volunteer at the food bank. The community saw that there were these bags of ice melting outside, and what they decided was, they're out of ice chests. Like, we need to save the ice. And so the next thing I saw was pictures of pickup trucks full of old ice chests. And they're taking around saying, "Hey, city, where can I drop off all these ice chests?" So from that, eventually the community helped us understand that there are helped each other understand that there are ways to volunteer that are proactive and helpful and meaningful and desired. But what I learned from that was that the community, once it gets going, has a momentum that the city is hopeless to stop. So, that in mind, so citizens, right, back to citizens. They make the whole thing difficult, right? When we'd rather be doing something else, rather than dealing with endless citizen complaints. But then that phrase, this whole thing would be a lot easier if it weren't for the citizens, rang pretty familiar to me, because I'd been in construction in a previous life, and we always said to each other, wouldn't this job be a whole lot easier if we could just do our job without those pesky customers? So I realized that this is really any industry. Any industry would be a lot easier to do if you didn't have your stakeholders to worry about, right? But I'm going to hit you with a little responsibility. You probably already know this, but I'm going to drop it on you anyway. Being government staff is to be a government staff is to be the gatekeeper and the concierge of democracy. So we are the ones who connect citizens with their government in the most real way. You already know this, and it may be what keeps you in the public sector. You could probably make more money elsewhere, but for some reason we love doing the public's work. By the way, the word, I go back to this probably a couple times a week, the word republic. I studied a little Latin in college, and it comes from two words, it's res and publica. Res just means thing, and publica means public. So we literally just do the public thing. So no matter how much we try to create self-service opportunities for citizens to access our services, like we try to do all the digital touch points with self-service, there will always be a place for the frontline customer service agent. Even if we can connect many of our citizens with digital versions of our services, what we're doing is kicking them out of line and inviting the real thorny issues right up to the front. How's that for a scary thought? But we're here to work on that relationship. High-performing government means that we must improve the citizens' experience. As awkward as that relationship may be, as unnatural as it may feel, we public employees are here because there's the public thing to do. But what I learned from Waldo Canyon Fire was that that relationship with our citizens is everlasting, it's persistent. For better or worse, we're here to the end. But relationships require trust. And building and maintaining that trust, that's the point, that's the purpose of engagement. So, on to question number 2. What's the point of engagement? What's the location where that relationship is happening? To go back to the apple metaphor, remember the red shine that's so attractive about the apple? That's just the outer skin. So if this engagement and this judgment that affects everything that the citizens are going to experience, it's very important for us to recognize where this is happening. Where does your citizen encounter their government? Where do they get stopped? Where do they get let in? Where's that bouncer? So, where is is it the politics? Do a lot of your citizens follow the city council discussions? Do they know the names of their representatives? Do they know which district they live in? Do they know which city they live in? Do they know which county they live in? I think politics is too hard a place to start, so we're just going to skip it. So where else do our citizens engage each other and their government? That's right, social media. But to break through all the noise of social media, all the news, the real news and the fake news, and the constant advertisements, how do we break through them? Well, years ago, there were a lot of different players in this space, and you kind of had to dance with them all. I think at this point we can say it's kind of fair that Facebook won, and the competition's kind of over. When the news starts investigating Facebook for its influence in the election, then it's pretty safe to say that there's one behemoth and everyone else is kind of playing second fiddle. But then again, once grandma got on Facebook, the kids decided it was over, right? So, and those kids continue to age up. So there are kids now who have never had a Facebook account. That's for old people. Why would I want to tell my parents what I'm doing? It's kind of like, it reminds me of the Yogi Berra quote that place is so crowded, nobody goes there. So Facebook is kind of a victim of its own success and subject to the march of generations. But I wouldn't cry for Mark Zuckerberg yet, because Facebook owns WhatsApp and Instagram and everything else, so he's going to be fine. Should we chase those endless changes in the social media markets? Maybe. I don't know. I can't predict the future of that, but I do know that as these tools are maturing, it's much easier for us to build analytics and measurable goals for digital engagement. And that's good. But these systems are designed to perpetuate themselves. They are not designed to connect people with their government. So I think even better is to track the actual click-throughs to actual engagements, to actual real-life engagement. We used to use a metaphor a metaphor of a conference table. So when somebody says, why should we devote any money to social media? You say, well, why should we devote any money to having a conference table? Well, the point is that that's where discussions happen, right? That's where decisions are made. That's where participation happens. Initially, that argument was used to defend social media. But I think anymore we can look more to results. Like, are we moving the needle on actual issues? Are we moving from likes and followers and retweets that don't really mean anything to something more meaningful, like votes or donations, advice or ideas, conversations, attendance at public events? And it's funny because those are actually the engagement, those are the metrics that we could use before social media. So the maturing of social media is actually allowing us to get back to actual personal engagement and civic participation. Which brings me back to the location. What's that point of engagement? Where are we engaging with our citizens? Local government, I'm not going to surprise you with this, but we are particularly vulnerable to being caught in the past. Internally, that's one thing. The bones of the elephant could be blue or yellow or brown, and it doesn't matter to the person being stepped on. So internal operations, they matter, but to the citizen, if we're looking at that point of engagement, other things matter more. So, potholes, police action, bridges, rescues, 311 calls, all these critical interactions with our people. But were those points of interaction, were those locations where we're engaging with our citizens, were they designed? Or did we just happen to do it that way because we've always done it that way, because we did it that way in the past? Citizen-facing services, to me, are the crucial location of interaction, the point of engagement. Everything else comes second to delighting the customer. And I believe now that digital engagement can drive real civic participation, but only if the residents use the tools that we give them. And only if they'll use the tools, and they'll only use the tools if we involve real humans, real citizens, in their design and their configuration. Which brings us to question number 3. I was going to come up with something silly, but you know what it is. What's the point of engagement, right? So there's a metaphor, I think it comes from the military, this military, called the tip of the spear, or the point of the spear, that's used to talk about where the action is, where the difference is being made. And I want to use it to say that point of engagement, I'm stretching the metaphor really hard. So the point of engagement, where's the innovation happening? What's happening on the edges right now? Because I don't know about you, but I think paying attention to the point of engagement between citizens and the government can go a long way toward fixing the brokenness and mistrust that characterizes the citizens' experience of government. I was expecting a woo from the EOJ. So I sincerely believe that a better informed and engaged community will have more trust, more support, and more compassion for the bureaucrats who do the public thing for them. Innovations are happening all around, and citizens wonder, why is my government still stuck in 1991? I mean, so what are some points of engagement where innovation is happening? The first one I want to talk about is payment. So I can stick an Amazon button in my laundry room, and when I need more soap, I smack the button. By drone or Hyperloop or whatever, it shows up, right? How convenient. This is great. It's also impossible to compete against, right? Like, we're going to be compared to this, and that's scary. But a business owner can't pay their quarterly sales tax online. I see it, they can't. Or there's a convenience fee when you use a credit card. Citizens are frustrated, and so they write nasty things on the check memo lines. They bring in a bag of pennies to pay a $100 bill. And I don't blame them. Often we deserve it. Not us, the hardworking city staff, but the system that takes their money and pisses them off while we do it deserves to be disrespected. It's not always that they hate their government. We drive them crazy. And in that moment of frustration, All their experience of government is collapsed into that one transaction. Some vendors are working in this space now. They're starting with transactions and even rebuilding entire websites as just the fluff around getting those transactions done. There's a lot of experimentation being done in this. People might say, well, that doesn't work because we need them to know XYZ as they're getting to this payment point. To that, I would say, you have to earn it. You have to earn attention. We are in an attention economy now, and you are not entitled to someone's attention. Delight them first. Let me say that again. Delight them first. And then you get a shot at earning their attention. Second, public discourse. Everyone loves public discourse, but it's never an easy thing. There are always more stakeholders to consider, and online trolling seems to have become our national pastime. But there are promising developments here too. The most promising elements of this have been in crowdsourcing, either sort of collaborative rating each other, like this person says useful things, or this person doesn't say useful things, or in a community moderation, like crowdsourced moderation, saying, I'm flagging that person's comment because it's not just incorrect, it's offensive. So there are bright spots. The third that I would want to talk about would be data. So opportunities to use better data in cooperation with our citizens. So open data programs, yes, for transparency, but also enabling the community to leverage the city's resources. The city has unique data sets. Counties have unique data sets. Everyone has states. We have different responsibilities, so we own different data. Just yesterday, the City of Colorado Springs was recognized by Cartograph for our partnership with Waze through the Connected Cities program. Thank you, Cartograph. It's seen a lot of really good use in just about a year since it's been up. And also want to give a little shout out to my favorite type of data. And the last area that I want to talk about is design thinking and user experience research and use. So there's an increasing interest in user experience and UX design in the public sector, and that's a really good trend. New York City just launched a service design studio to support best practices in designing services from the city to be accessible and effective. It's pointed at New Yorkers, but they have a guide there that's for anyone to use. It's all open source, so you can get on there and understand what practices you can use to understand how your community will take in the services that you provide. The tools and tactics guide. By the way, I have a slide coming up. Nick has the link to a little website that I built to support this, so all the resources I'm going with it. And also user testing groups. So you wouldn't take an app to market without testing it on some type of user population. And civic user testing groups have popped up in Chicago and then quickly went to Detroit and Miami and Oakland. And we in Colorado Springs are standing one up and we're calling it civic superhero training. We're saying you're already an engaged citizen. Now we're going to put the grappling hook on your belt, we're going to put the tiara on your head, and we're going to put a cape on your back, and you're going to be a civic superhero. So we train people in 8 to 10 engagement points with the city, whether that's using Waze or using the city's mobile app to report a pothole, or watching the city's live stream for our council events, or setting alerts for yourself when items come before city council. We go through a number of those, and then we ask people, now that we've shown you all of these, here's our financial transparency portal. Tell me how you would use this to find how much it costs to water the parks. And then we sit back and watch them use it. Record that feedback, take it back. Maybe that's how I configure the site. Maybe I take it back to the vendor and I say, here's how real people use this. Fix it. And then I've taken those people who have participated in the training and have them record a little testimonial for the community that we put on our social media and on our TV channel. We say, hi, I'm Chelsea, and I'm a superhero. I'm a civic superhero. I can know before something comes before city council, and I know exactly where all my money's being spent. Hi, I'm Jake, and I reported graffiti under a bridge where I live. He doesn't live under a bridge. So, here's the quick quickest way to get to the site with some of the with these and some other supporting information. And Nick will have that, and if we come up with the speaker notes or the slides or anything from this, we can get that to you.
Give it a beat.
So we've got a long way to go still. Before we get to the point where our citizens are writing us love notes and holding our hands and floating across the water with us to a happy ending. But I hope that in this time between you and your beer, I've given you a few ideas, some support for your citizen-facing initiatives, and some resources for you to find ways to focus on the point of engagement with your citizens. So, thanks.